folks, token on Algorand is taking off. We are going to look at this Algorand coin on today's Frugal BC, plus a bunch of other news, including this major Algorand exec meets with Washington insiders. What's going on here? We'll dive into that. An Algorand partner has joined forces with Ferrari on blockchain development. We'll dive into that. And Algorand has some really great projects in the pipeline. We'll look at the result of this latest hackathon and some of the really cool sounding projects that came out of that. But the big news today, we got a whole bunch of folks news to cover today. I think it's had a pretty impressive run so far, a pretty impressive amount of things happening on it. So we'll dive into all that on today's Frugal BC. By the way, if you like this stuff, please hit that like and subscribe button. Now remember, you don't have to smash it. You just press it gently. It works just fine that way too. Of course, if you want to smash it, hey, I'm not about telling you what to do. And just a reminder, we are brought to you by Haystack. This is the easiest way to trade on Algorand. It is mobile first, and it is offering great stuff, so go check that out today. Seamless, great UI, and a great founder, so check out Haystack in the description below. And we're brought to you by Marcus Aurelius, a meme coin and NFT project on the Algorand blockchain, spreading the word about Stoicism, something that I care about. Stoicism has done a lot to help me through my life. And this is also a great founder who's always building, always making new stuff, and really putting a lot of effort into this. So check out Marcus Aurelius in the description below, and give a shout out to both of our sponsors. But enough about that, let's get to today's show. And first off, we're going to talk about this Algorand partner that is now joining forces with Ferrari. And, I think it's interesting to know, but I also have some thoughts about how newsworthy it actually is. So let's dive into this. And by the way, guys, before I get into this, if you did not see my Alpha Arcade experiment video yesterday, I highly recommend you do so. I think we don't share the experiments very often, but I think they're definitely worth checking out. So definitely give that video some love. I'm going to link it above, but let's get back to this Algorand CEE reports, and this is reporting on Mark Vanderberg's statements here. And it says Algorand partner Conio is helping Ferrari create a digital token for its top clients to bid on its Le Mans winning car. This is a great example of how luxury brands are starting to use blockchain in ways that feel practical, not to encourage speculation, but to make belonging and access part of the experience. It seems like a little it actually does seem a little speculative, because aren't they bidding on the Le Mans winning car? Isn't that by definition speculation? But I get the point. It's outside use cases besides just buying a coin and hoping it goes up, which, by the way, everything is going up right now, which is kind of nice. Anyway, the token will circulate within a small group of collectors, giving them a way to trade and participate in something that feels closer to the brand itself. When crypto works quietly in the background, it becomes easier for people to use and harder to ignore. This is how mainstream adoption takes place. And actually, that's something I've been saying for a while, that you kind of need to abstract away the crypto. Crypto just needs to be working quietly in the background, and it's the stuff that you're using on top of it that will actually drive adoption. So, there's people like us that we want to get into the weeds on crypto, but a lot of people, they just want it to actually work. It is an interesting idea. They said this token won't be, this is Algorand CEE talking now. He says this Algorand won't, this token won't be public. It's designed exclusively for Ferrari's Hyper Club, a group of 100 ultra elite clients passionate about endurance racing. So I don't know if you guys know how Ferrari works, and I don't have a Ferrari, just to be clear. Like, you can't just go and buy any Ferrari you want. You actually have to kind of like work your way up and buy so many of their basic production models, and then as you go up, you start building up there's probably nuances that I'm missing, but basically you build up your Ferrari buying resume, so to speak. And the more you do that, the more you actually get access to buy some of the more rare cars or more expensive cars, lower production models, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. I'll be curious to see how this actually pans out, because it's an interesting idea, and I don't know how much. So the Algorand connection is kind of tenuous here, was kind of the point I was making, but it is interesting to see how that plays out. So anyway, I thought that was worth pointing out anyway. And next up, this Algorand exec is meeting with Washington officials at this important blockchain conference. So I thought this was worth highlighting. It's someone that I've followed for a little while on X, but let's check out what this means for Algorand. By the way, I think this is really interesting because I followed this guy for a while, and I always think he looks like, to me, he looks like this little kitty. So he actually looks like a real person. Anyway, this is Silent Rhetoric. He is the head of developer relations at a minor blockchain. Well, that's Algorand, I believe, right? Former Morgan Stanley. Digital assets are an application of morally neutral technology. Anyway, like he said, he's the head of developer relations at the foundation, and he is representing Algorand at the Blockchain Association BA Policy Summit in Washington, D.C. And that is a pretty big list of players in the space. You got Kraken, you got Near, like I said, Algorand, we just talked about. They're up there, Alchemy, A16Z, number of heavy hitters on this list for sure. Yeah, Phantom, like the Phantom Wallet, Lido. Seems like a pretty big deal to have Algorand represented there. And yeah, hopefully some good will come out of it. I mean, you'd rather be in the room than not in the room, right? And up next, Algorand has some really great projects in the pipes. I like to look through these lists to see what kind of projects could be coming onto Algorand. Because like I said, you know, stuff being built on top of the blockchain to me is the most important thing, because that's what really drives adoption. You're just not going to get grandma to buy, or even your boomer dad probably, to buy crypto and hold it on a wallet. It's just not happening. Log into a DeFi platform, not happening. Let me tell you, I've worked with people, you know, even like 10 years older than me. This stuff's a mystery. Okay. So I like to see what projects are coming through the pipeline, and these are pretty interesting. So let's share these. By the way, these are from Sarah Jane, who is definitely a friend of the channel and doing great stuff on Algorand. One of my favorite people here, and just a real genuine person. So we had 75 global applicants in this Algorand startup challenge, and all building with or moving towards Algorand. Let's look at some of the top ones. Get orbital lending from Complex Labs, lend, borrow, and trade, debt in a capital efficient LST, liquid staking powered lending protocol, Axiomatic Oracle, Algorand native Oracle, converting off-chain asset data into PVOL, attestations for programmable, verifiable RWAs. If you understand that, you're smarter than me. I roughly know what that means, but I think sometimes you got to like put this in regular language. Castle Finance, permissionless and non-custodial finance for humans and AI, US and European accounts, high yield saving, instant payments. That's very interesting, because I think one of the easiest use cases for crypto, and it looks like maybe we're coming up on that, maybe not. One of the biggest use cases for crypto, in my opinion, is just absolute simple payments. You know, I just thought about how easy it was for me to collect. So a sponsor paid for my trip, helped pay for my trip to Dubai for the 2022 Decipher, and they sent it to me in Algorand, and you know, it took seconds. It took you know, a couple of days to get to my actual bank, but it took seconds to go from, you know, a country in Europe all the way to the US, and it's instant. I mean, I just thought, and it was extremely inexpensive. And I thought, wow, if you could just do this where the person it's abstracted away, so the person doesn't know they're operating on crypto rails, or at least don't have to do anything with crypto, and they just send it, like, wow, that would make so much sense. So I don't know if that's like, kind of sounds like that's what this is going to be, which is pretty cool. Let's say instant payments. So clear spend, team spending made safe, verified purchases, financial literacy. Wow, I'm really struggling with that word. And real world money habits. Jigsy Puzzle, a brand new spatial puzzle concept with daily challenges, multiplayer tournaments, and future Algorand integration. I've been wanting to try that out. We'll go play with that in a little bit. Biotech Dex, decentralized AMM offering swapping, liquidity management, and staking pools. Okay, great. We got enough of that. We got enough of that stuff. Centralized data marketplace for BCI users to upload brain data for AI and BCI companies to trade models. Dang. CryptoGate asset protection as a service using rekeying and time-bound transactions for trustless beneficiary control. Visual, there's a lot. All right, we'll go for a few more of these. Visual experience, AI-powered music streaming with blockchain-based rewards, governance, and marketplace features. B-Tree, which is smart contract, transparent, reproducible human subject scientific experiments. Comply Ledger, AI-driven compliance automation with real-time zero-knowledge proofs on Algorand. Your Vote, secure, transparent, walletless elections with verifiable Algorand-based results. Row 8, creator-first photo app where every shot is instantly proven authentic and ready to sell share. Blocks Office, a filmmaker co-op offering 80% revenue share and NFT ticketing for true digital film ownership. Gain a map, contract studio, a contract thing, that's pretty cool. Totally verifying authenticity, and Castle Lotto, Algorand powered raffles, funding the restoration of Italian heritage sites. Interesting idea. Anyway, I thought those were interesting to look. I know we had to kind of ramble through some of those at the end because that was getting kind of long, but interesting stuff. But let's turn to folks. Now, I'm often a fan of saying that I don't think we need another token on Algorand, that they keep popping up all the time. But I gotta say, the folks team has done a tremendous job of actually building excitement and building out the infrastructure for their coin. They've been getting it on like every freaking exchange. I think it's Binance, Bybit, all of those. And then here's some latest developments on folks, which I think is really interesting. So let's dive into this. So first up is Kaizen Finance, which, if I understand, this is actually built on Avalanche. And they're excited to team up with our partners, Folks Finance, and host Folks Staking Campaign. So you'll be able to, available via Kaizen Finance and KuCoin. Yeah, they're on KuCoin too, by the way. You can now stake Folks for 30 days at 30% APR. Well, that's pretty good. Yeah, here we go. I've locked away Folks using your offering. Thanks for enabling deposits on Avalanche. I prefer that. And what's cool about this with Folks is it's not just Algorand, but actually the coin crosses barriers to a number of other chains, because Folks has been like a multi-chain platform, which I think is really smart. Now, they haven't abandoned Algorand, which is why I think that's a good thing. They, started on Algorand, but then they built out to all these other chains. They're using Chainlink for interoperability between them all, something I think Algorand should get a part of. I really think this is like kind of the future. I don't think you can afford to just build on Algorand. I think it's a good place to start to test your concept, but then I think you got to go bigger. But I don't like to see when they take Algorand Foundation money and then jump to other chains. Folks has stayed loyal to Algorand, and I think that's awesome. And that's not all we got for this, by the way, because Folks also has a mobile app coming. That's right. Folks Mobile is getting ready for early access. The Folks Mobile VASP licensed partnership is how DeFi scales from a niche product to something anyone can use through a fully compliant app built for mainstream adoption. Now, is this kind of, it'd be interesting. I know it's a different product. It seems like it's going to be maybe challenging Haystack a little bit, or maybe a companion to it. I can see a case where you have, your lending stuff on Folks and you have your trading on Haystack. It'd be kind of cool if they actually like work together and you could bridge between the two. Pretty neat. But yeah, they just won't stop building. These one thing I'll say about this team is they are balls to the wall going forward, and it's great to see. So, you got to give it up for the Folks team. And I don't use Folks a ton. I think I've been pretty clear about that, and that's fine. But I can still appreciate, because lending isn't that interesting to me. It is to other people, but I do think it's interesting just how much they're building and what they've been able to accomplish is pretty impressive. It's been a lot of like promises in the Algorand space. These guys are actually delivering, and I always got to tip my hat to that. So, there you go. All right, well, that is all I have for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown here, and make sure to check out, like I said, our Alpha Arcade 6-month experiment video. Just put that out yesterday. I'll link it above. I think it's really important because I like to do these reviews where I go through and I actually test stuff out and see how it works and give you the good, bad, and the ugly. Not a lot of people do that in this space. And so I do want to get a few more views for that video. So definitely check that out. And you can find out how it worked, what went right, what went wrong. So otherwise, I'm Frugal BC. I hope you guys are doing well out there. Enjoy the prices finally going up today, which is nice. Maybe you're watching this tomorrow and then it's not. That's how it goes in crypto. But anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the future.